guys have photo paper I could borrow?
Yeah, sure.
Do you know if the other team is here?
Oh no.
I'm not sure. Scott. Say 27.
DBCD?
We're DVRD.
Oh, alright, my bad.
Yeah.
DVRD. Hi guys. That's what's up. Where should we sit? This table? There's a. I think we could adjust this table. It's fine if we like move it. Or
You guys can sit here and I'll sit over there.
okay. Yeah,
Oh, because I need to charge ourselves. So.
Oh yeah. Okay, that's cool.
And then we'll just come to the middle and speak.
Yeah, totally. There's food on this table now. Okay, can I see this? Oh yeah, go for it. If you guys want to start an email chain, our emails are
Yeah,
over
yeah.
here.
I'm just creating it right now.
Okay, great. I'll drop cards in whenever we do that.
Do you guys have a port on that side? There's a.
No, we don't.
No?
Is there nowhere you can plug in?
I mean, his outlet's like over here. So.
You want to sit on the floor?
Yeah, okay. Is it alright if we like move the table?
Oh wait, hey, there's an outlet over here.
Where?
There's this big charging station, so we could just sit over here.
Okay.
Fantastic.
Judge, is that alright if we sit here? Because we won't. Okay, cool.
Wait, do you guys mind giving me your email so we can start the
Yeah, it's
email
on our.
chain?
It's on our wiki.
Yeah.
If you want, I can just type it. I might be faster.
Yeah. There you go.
We'll just come up to the middle there and speak.
And that's what it was.
Thank you. Okay, I just sent the first email.
Okay, cool.
Just tell me if you guys get it.
Sure. I'll drop case as soon as I get it. Oh, really quickly, Judge. Are you okay with speed?
Yeah.
Okay. Did you get it? Check it out. I got it, Emmanuel's checking.
Yeah, just got it.
Cool, great. I'm going to drop case. Okay. It's uploaded.
I'll say you when I get it.
Yeah, for sure. I'll set up in the meantime.
see it.
Okay, cool. Okay, just 1 second. Okay, so my name is Arjun Krub, ARJUNKUREP, Mountain House KP on the indication, speaking first. Is everyone ready? Opponents? Judge? Okay. I'll slow down on tags and cards. Actually, let me get a little water. Okay. Contention 1 is econ, subpoint is foreign trade, Brexit increased trade, make by 23. Trade does not show a Brexit effect, trade does shows the exports to EU countries about 34.5%, non-EU countries 14%, claims that leaving the EU reduces GDP about 4%, exports and imports over the video claims supported by the data, the EU, the tariff-free data deal, rebound post-border FTAs, Australia, New Zealand, CTTB, India, overall cooperation, Council, Canada, Mexico, South Korea, Switzerland, Turkey, boost UK trade. The UK can now trade outside EU agreements, Elliott 25. India and the UK have a free trade deal with vastly boost of bilateral trade between the nations. India has the world's highest shares for imports. At least 90% of British services sold in the country. 85% of British products will be tariff-free in India. Britain also agreed to cut its own tariffs. 99% of India's export to Britain have faced no duties. British companies compete for more service contracts. The UK agreement in India is third largest after Australia and Japan. Trade deals and agreements over on 70 nations. India, world's fastest growing in Asia. Economy advancement inputs grow significantly. Gravel 24. The UK now has the fastest growth in the G7 because of trade deals enabled by Brexit. Since referendum, the UK economy has the fastest growth in the G7. Exports have reached 870 billion euros, reach our target of 1 trillion euros. That growth in trade is really assaulted by our free trade agreements. Also, with 73 countries globally plus the EU. Returning means the UK is still being all 70 of its trade agreements. How 24? If Britain were to rejoin the EU, would have to be Trans-Pacific Partnerships and having separate free trade agreements is incompatible with the EU. The EU makes horrible trade deals and isn't respected internationally. They are too divided, easily pressured, afraid of retaliation, and both rigid yet hypocritical. Horror 25. For structural weaknesses in the EU's long-standing approach to trade, member states give Mexicans the best of the bad EU, accept the bad deal. The one the party of fragmented national interests create mere pressure parties in the to expand industry sway the EU stands member states economically national to narrowly define national interests are limited but its ability to be usable for each member state but its legalistic and arbitrary trade rules. The EU gained a reputation and flexibility among its trading partners. Being in the EU is detrimental to growth. Broad 16. The GDP growth of 21 years in the single market has been slow. As independent countries grow by 54%. Independent European countries, while members of the single market, grow only by 38%. Comparative evidence explains why the question of the single market is the EU growing a significant storm when compared with independent countries. The growth of the EU GDP is still to keep pace with the independent countries. Then subpoint B is regulatory whiplash. UK businesses have mostly adapted to post-Brexit rule changes. OIM 24. Over the last year, the report finds that majority of businesses that trade within the UK do not experience challenges when selling to other countries. Specifically, Pardo 24. These findings said that the European Union generated additional costs for UK bills costing £96,281 on average since 2020. Small businesses can't take another economic hit. London 25. Over half, 54% S&P said that one more major cost factors forced them to shut down. Crippling ambition and clouding strategic vision across the UK's entrepreneurial basis. These businesses are stuck in survival mode. Too many of them are close to giving up. Flip-flopping on regulations hurts businesses' ability to innovate as they're constantly scrambling last minute to rewrite policies, retrain staff, fix supply chains, or pay unexpected costs just to stay legal. We need to stick with what we have. Robinson 25. Regulatory return is expensive, time-consuming, and actively damaging a business' ability to innovate. Regulation isn't an option. Reducing the burden is now a critical need. It also reduces investment and innovation for small businesses and lowers employment growth. Bill 23. Regulatory uncertainty arises when, for example, regulations are proposed but not finalized. Regulatory uncertainty increases risk and can delay impede business decisions and investment, and chilling effect on investment and innovation. Uncertainty can make it a big over friends who assess risk of opportunities may inhibit friends investment. Small businesses account for 52% of the UK's economy. Gov UK 24. SMEs account for 99% of the overall population in each of the mainstream main sectors. SMEs account for 60% of employment, 52% of turnover. Triggers a weight of poverty and income inequality. Baldacci et al. 2002. Financial crisis, deepen poverty and income inequality, falling GDP per capita associated with deterioration of the economic distribution, the increase in poverty. Poverty picks and chooses its victims. It's not blind. Read 24. People died in poverty. Numbers into 111,000. Poverty affects some group more than others. Women are more likely to die. Minorities, ethnic groups are more likely to die. Adverse effects of the quality of life. A UK recession would affect the rest of the world. Grand 22. The global economy is deeply interconnected. UK entering a recession could tip other markets over the edge due to close sides of major evidence. Recession plunged millions into poverty. BU 19. During the Great Recession, the US unemployment rate rose from 40.7% to 10%, between 50 million and 100 million people around the world either fell into or prevented from escaping extreme poverty due to crisis. Contention 2 is politics and prophetic reform is UK. Elections are evenly massed. Dion 6-5. Reform 30%, Labour 22%, Conservatives 23%, Liberal Democrats 57%, the Green 6%. Rejoining kills any chance of Labour re-election. 3 ways. Cut the first one. Go to second, political capital. Rejoining us as a massive political capital. Starman can't afford that. Usher with 23. When fewer than 10% of people rank it as an important issue that's not shared in the public debate, why should any party invest a major amount of political capital in something that's neither a priority and Muslims inflating a significant minority? Even amongst the EU membership of rules and long terms, those will only come up under periods of uncertainty. Means no other agenda items past Ben 24. Successive PMs, time incredibly. You know what? Cut the rest for overtime. Thanks. Let me know when you guys send case.
Yeah, I'm doing that right now.
Cool. Couple 6. Okay. Where are we involved? No. Did you get to what bunch? Yeah, I got everything. Okay, so on the doc, you guys can honestly just cut the entire C2.
Okay.
C2, C3. Oh no, C2, yeah.
C2, yeah. So we read FTAs and we read regulatory whiplash.
Yeah.
Yeah, everything else is dropped.
Okay. Okay, I just sent it.
Cool. We'll let you know.
Tell me when y'all are ready.
See if you have the doc. I got it. Emmanuel's checking. Yeah. Wait, open it. See if it's. Okay. KP is good.
Okay. Judge, you ready? Okay, I will start time on my first word. In a time of crisis, the answer isn't isolation, it's cooperation. Thus, we affirm this round should be weighed on which side best improves the long-term quality of life for ordinary citizens. Because survival and stability depend on economic security and healthcare access, prioritize impacts that save lives and reduce poverty. We don't debate symbolism, we debate real-world outcomes. Contention 1 economy. Workforce shortages cripple growth. Before Brexit, free movement allowed EU citizens to live and work in the UK. Afterwards, stricter visa rules and red tape drove tens of thousands of essential workers out. That broke labor supply in agriculture, logistics, hospitality, and healthcare. Studies confirm that rejoining restores immigration flow, reviving the workforce, and stabilizing economic productivity. Brexit accelerated a poverty crisis. The London School of Economics found that Brexit alone added £6 billion to food prices, about £210 per household. That's not abstract. Today, over 14 million citizens live in poverty, including about 4 million children, a 61% increase since leaving the EU. Rejoining would lower trade barriers, reduce inflation, and help families afford food, rent, and energy again. Red tape crushed trade and small businesses. The BBC reports that since Brexit, companies must follow 2 regulatory systems, doubling compliance costs. Many small businesses stopped exporting entirely. The Economics Journal 25 found trade with the EU fell 30%, shrinking the economy, raising inflation, and pushing over 1 million people into poverty. Rejoining removes these barriers by restoring regulatory alignment and frictionless trade. Farmers are collapsing and food is rotting. With border delays, EU labor restrictions, and new regulations, crops are being left in the field. Agricultural experts report that 40% of UK farms now operate at a loss, and food prices are up 20%. Rejoining solves both the labor shortage and the supply chain breakdown. Trade power is stronger inside the EU. The UK lost leverage when it left the EU bloc. Labour 25 explains that rejoining strengthens the EU's bargaining power and makes it a more attractive trade partner. That benefits everyone. The World Bank confirms global trade has helped more than 1 billion people escape poverty. Cooperation scales prosperity. Contingent 2 is healthcare. The NHS lost critical staff. The Guardian 22 reports over 4,000 EU doctors and 60,000 nurses left the UK after Brexit due to visa costs, legal uncertainty, and instability. To fill the gap, the UK started recruiting from red list countries like Nigeria and Ghana, a move condemned by the WHO for draining doctors from poor nations. Rejoining restores EU medical staffing without unethical consequences. Drug shortages are killing patients. Since Brexit, drug imports face new licensing, customs, and compliance costs. The Guardian 24 finds shortages have doubled and prices have risen tenfold. Distributors are now abandoning the UK. According to the Medical Journal 25, 75% of patients are now at risk, hospitals are shutting down, and 20,000 people have already died. This is a terminal impact. Rejoining unlocks EU supply chains, fixes the flow of medicine, and saves lives. Brexit dismantled medical innovation. Before leaving the EU, the UK was a leader in pharmaceutical R&D, collaborating on projects that created 25% of the world's top life-saving drugs. Euronews 25 explains that Brexit severed access to EU grants and partnerships. That setback is massive. Innovation has reduced death rates by 60%. Rejoining restores the UK's place in cutting-edge global research. This debate isn't about slogans like sovereignty, it's about survival. Brexit took food off tables, workers out of hospitals, and medicine off shelves. Rejoining the EU is the only path that restores the economy and healthcare system that millions of citizens rely on. Because we save lives, cut poverty, and offer real solutions, we affirm. Thank you.
You're for cross?
Yeah.
Can I take first question?
One second, let me get my flow.
Oh yeah, sure. Before we start time, do you mind if I take first question?
Yeah, I'll let you take first question.
Okay, thank you. We'll start time right now. You tell me about red list countries being recruited into the NHS instead of status quo. Afterwards of the affirmative, would these exploited doctors still be inside of the NHS?
Well, I mean, we don't have any data, but that shows otherwise. But first of all, we give you a card that specifically shows that in the status quo, they are already doing these. And in the affirmative world, it gives the chance to allow more to be doctored into, which would therefore...
I'm just asking you, will these red list workers still be inside of the NHS afterwards of the affirmative?
Well, it would bring more
It's a yes or no
in.
answer.
I mean,
it's a yes or no answer.
That's a cherry-picked question.
Well, I'm just asking you, are these red list workers still going to be inside of the NHS afterwards of the affirmative? The question doesn't care if EU workers are going to join or not. Are these red list workers going to be inside the NHS? Yes or no? Then
well, I mean, we don't have anything on that. But first of all, we have that in the status quo, they're already coming into the UK. So therefore, affirming would allow more EU doctors to come into the UK.
Well,
and
let's say why would red list workers
in this round
stop?
is that people are dying, and therefore allowing drug trade, allowing EU doctors to come into the UK.
Hey, this is constructive, please. Okay,
yeah, I'm just responding.
Yeah, wait, but
okay, I have this question now. We spent almost half the process.
Take a question.
Okay, so you kind of give a couple things on CPTPP and India trade and how UK is fastest growing in G7. But what percent of trade is the CPTPP compared to EU trade? When you say EU trade is bigger than the CPTPP trade?
Oh, okay. CPTPP is 1 out of 70. 73.
Well, how many of those are rollovers?
What do you mean by rollovers?
The rollover trades from the agreements under the EU.
You couldn't have foreign trade agreements when you were part of the EU. That's literally EU policy. That independent nations cannot have foreign trade agreements. And we're telling you explicitly in case, in just a few years after Brexit, we made 73 new trade agreements, one of which with the fastest growing economy in the entire world being India. Could I take a question?
Yeah, I'll let you take a question.
Okay, let's go back to the whole red list thing. Is your case telling me that afterwards of enacting the affirmative, we're going to stop hiring red list workers?
Not necessarily, but our case tells you that we reduce poverty and that we help to save lives via the drug trade.
And how do you reduce poverty by selling drugs? Wouldn't you say that pharmaceutical companies are relatively predatory?
Well, I mean, that's a separate argument that can be made, but it is you're misunderstanding the argument that we make in this round. We think that pharmaceutical companies, that drug prices have already increased tenfold, and that the ESM was the main mechanism of getting those drugs into the UK. But now there's a lot of tariffs and other things that increase these costs, which is why prices increased tenfold, and you've seen 20,000 people have already died, and millions of people are pushed into poverty.
Okay, very quick. Actually, we're out of time. We'll discuss this.
All right, good cross.
Good cross.
Thank you.
Yep. Do you need prep? Okay, we'll take some running prep time. For context, we have 3 minutes. We'll start right now. Don't go super fast. Yeah. 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 Read an analytic from is this hold on.
speech doc in here?
No, I'm just look at the speech. I'm just reading from top to speech on tip one.
Really?
Yeah.
Great thing. When are you gonna read this?
Oh, I can read that after. Okay. Or should I read that first?
Yeah, read it first.
Okay, cool.
Okay. And then I'll just type you, okay? Okay, cool. 57 seconds, 2 minutes and 3 seconds left for Mountain House KP.
Okay, yeah, I'll be touching speech doc right now.
Yeah, we'll send over evidence. Paste the rhetoric at the bottom too.
I'm reading for
No, you should, because like that's where you're gonna say in speech. You should say it too. Yeah, bro.
Okay. Tell me when you guys have gotten the speech doc. Why do I not have Wi-Fi?
Connect to the.
I think we're not taking prep. I'm having issues with Wi-Fi. Never mind. What is the Wi-Fi password?
Stack QLS. QLS. Bless you. Did it work?
Yeah, it worked. Okay. What is this? Okay, continue.
No, I think you can just press cancel. Yeah, you should.
Okay, cool.
Put it down the place.
Okay.
Alright, doc is sent. Need my timer or you got it?
Yeah, I think so.
Where's your phone?
My phone's dead.
You just wait until we get the doc.
Yeah,
Yeah, you're just setting up.
Okay, we both got it.
Okay. Alright, my name is Manuel Peter. I'm the second speaker for Mountain House KP. Quick off time roadmap, I'll be reading an overview at the top. I think I accidentally duplicated a card on when sending the thing over. That's fine. I'll be going at the top with the overview, responding to their case from econ and then to healthcare. Time will begin on my first word.
Wait, Emmanuel, let's slow down on the card names.
Okay, that's fine.
UK-EU reset overview. COVID-25 UK and the European Union landmark deal resetting relationship ease restrictions on travel and work for hundreds of millions, agreements on defense and migration work, travel history, ease trade, reduce red tape, burdening British businesses exporting food, removal of routine checks on products, lower food prices, more stability for farmers and producers, EU open its electricity market up to the UK, boosting energy security and lowering prices, free, sustainable, fair, open trade, work closely on defense. Youth mobility and travel work between the UK and Europe. Use e-gates at EU airports when they travel. What does this mean? This essentially means that the UK-EU summit, both parties signed multiple pacts on defense, migration, work, and travel, as well as food. Rejoining is unnecessary. But then UK co-op increasing like crazy right now. August 25 says UK-EU strategy for partnership on the summit. 19th of May marked a significant departure from the years of acrimony. The Windsor Framework resolved the continuous issues on the Northern Ireland Protocol. The UK has rejoined the Horizon Europe. The SCAFE Defence Pact allows the UK to close cooperation with Ukraine, share planning and access to the EU Defence Fund, effectively reintegrating into the EU security architecture. Energy cooperation will see the UK participate in the EU electricity market, potentially lowering bills and securing infrastructure into already against external threats. Emission trading systems will be linked, creating a path to net zero and leveling environmental playing field. A new SPS deal simplifies trade and reinstatement of Aramis to offer opportunities for young people, particularly those disadvantaged backgrounds hit hard by Brexit. Tariff-free trade in steel, unexpected but vital, was shaped in part of the U.S. But either way, 2/3 of Brits want to stay on course of getting closer to the EU without joining. Almost 2/3 of Britons now want to see closer relationship with the European Union, 65%. This means the status quo actually wins the co-op debate. UK assimilation, the AF takes 10+ years of litigation. McGee 24, the ascension process joining the EU takes around 10 years. That's for countries that actively want to join the bloc and accept all of its rules. Britain, a country that has already been causing enough chaos, and Brussels would be negotiating something even more complicated with partners who are sick of us. Data uncertainties, reject their studies, no trade or GDP link, Lagos 25, 4%. Calculation was not precise because leaving the EU coincided with systemic disruptions caused by the coronavirus pandemic and the energy crisis. Pandemic caused a drop-off in migration, blaming labor shortages on Brexit appears to be much less credible. Declining goods trade hasn't predominantly come from the EU. Don't buy any of their healthcare arguments on healthcare shortages. It's not caused by Brexit. On econ, cross-supply evidence from case. EU econ is bad. Being in the EU is detrimental to growth. Barrage 16 says the GDP growth of 21 years of single market has been slow. Independent countries grew by 54%. Independent EU countries, while member states of the single market only grew by 38%. Healthcare turn. UK is solving healthcare workers in squo. EU is suffering worse shortages than the UK. JCPA 25, when the immigrants are accepted, many countries do not possess the ability to integrate them within their own societies. Oftentimes, immigrants from the EU end up confined in camps and ghettos. Many of them face severe problems created by their own cultures, which are frequently so very different from Western cultures. International workers, UK 25 says the healthcare sector accounted for the UK's new healthcare sector accounted for a third of skilled workers visa grants in the year ending in March 2025. Between October 2024 and March 2025, 52% of skilled workers entry visas, including healthcare and occupations, became eligible for visas under the post-Brexit immigration system. Turned NHS is in crisis because of funding, not staffing. Suicide rates will remain as high as long as funding is low, meaning nobody will want to work until the econ is fixed. ONG 23 factors contributing to the high suicide rates with medical communities are well established. Among them are immense high pressure workloads, bullying, harassment with rigidly hierarchical work structures, sleep deprivation, poor support structures, and limited resources for employees veering towards burnout, and unprecedented equestrian squeeze on the NHS. Since NEG accesses econ better, we solve for the squeeze at its true root and subsequently fix healthcare. On time frame, every single one of their impacts only access after 10 years. So on net, you vote for us because we fix everything within our world immediately. They only access any of their impacts after 10 years. But that's time. Thank you.
I'll be taking a minute of prep.
You guys taking prep?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, we're starting it now.
We're starting in 3,
Cool.
2, 1. That's Tom. Judge, I'll be going over our case and then onto their case. Firstly, on our case, they say that the UK economy is really bad right now. However, and it's all caused because of COVID and not Brexit. However, the UK's economy has dropped since 2020 because of Brexit and not COVID. Springford 24 explains how, despite the recession during COVID in 2020, COVID restrictions have ended before other countries, which should result in a faster recovery, not slower, proving how the UK's economy drop was due to Brexit. Our opponents say that the UK-EU relationships are increasing, yet this just proves that assimilation would be easier instead of the 10+ years of litigation like they want you to believe. And they also talk about the reset deal. However, the reset deal hasn't shown any trade boosts in the past 6 months, meaning that no matter what happens here, the reset deal won't do anything. On our second contention, they state that the EU also faces healthcare shortages, and that is true. However, the UK has enough universities that can hold EU citizens, yet this isn't possible in the status quo without Erasmus Plus or Horizon. If they rejoin, EU citizens can access these facilities, and UK citizens can access EU facilities, leading to more doctors around, and they also drop drug shortages completely. The affirmative states that red list countries will still supply doctors to the UK. However, the UK will not have to turn to red list countries if they rejoin the EU. This means red list countries will stop supplying more doctors, which stops the flow of doctors from red list countries, replacing them with EU doctors, which is not condemned by the World Health Organization. On their first contention on economy, subpoint A4 and trade, their claim is that Brexit increased trade. However, their own evidence cherry-picks short-term nominal increases that are inflation-driven. Real UK exports have fallen since Brexit. The OBR, LSE, and IMF all found UK trade volumes 15% below pre-Brexit trend. That means less competitiveness and lower long-term growth. Correlation does not mean causation. Their data covers 2020 to 2022 years, distorted by COVID recovery and inflation. The ONS confirms that the UK lags behind G7 peers in trade recovery. Even if trade volume temporarily looks stable, trade intensity and foreign investment both collapse, meaning weaker long-term prosperity. Now, the UK-India deal turned the India deal adds less than 0.2% of GDP by 2040, basically negligible. Meanwhile, EU membership previously boosted GDP by 2 to 3% annually due to scale and proximity. These bilateral FTAs cannot replace frictionless EU single market access. The EU is 43% of UK trade versus only 2% for India. International trade deals made post-Brexit make up only a fraction of trade loss for the EU, chew at L25. After Brexit, the UK has had only 3 new trade deals, but their impact on the economy is judged by the government's own assessments to be small relative to the negative impact on the UK-EU trade. Possible benefits of deals with CPTPP, Australia, New Zealand, and the US and India would still only be worth about 14% of the amount lost due to Brexit. They said that the EU makes bad trade deals, however, that is outdated. The EU recently finalized new digital, green, and AI trade pacts with the US, Japan, and Mercosur, outperforming UK bilateral deals. The EU size also allows it to negotiate better terms for members. Collective bargaining power outweighs UK isolation. The cost of joining the EU is insignificant compared to the value it can bring to the UK. CBI 15 explains how the EU's influence and credibility makes the alliance a highly useful aspect to the UK if it joins. The UK's economy has dropped since The UK economy has dropped $150 billion due to Brexit, Mayor of London 24. And they say that being in the EU hurts. Both his Savita study is pre-2016 and widely discredited for misusing GDP per capita comparisons that ignore Eastern EU expansion effects. They say that 70 trade deals will be lost, but this is completely wrong. Of the 71 free trade deals or trade deals the UK has signed since leaving the EU, 68 are rollover deals identical to the deals the UK had with those 68 countries when it was in the single market. On to subpoint B on regulatory whiplash. Businesses have not adapted yet. Rejoining does not cause chaos. OIM only measured domestic trade, not EU trade. 73% of UK firms still report increased costs and red tape post-Brexit. The UK small businesses will still have to follow EU regulations if not in. Taking an example of the EU AI Act applies to providers and users of AI systems. On red tape and regulations, small businesses are fine. Wolf 25, 100,000 firms that filed 14% of previous EU exporters stopped altogether. That is time. Vote for the affirmation.
Before we start cross, you guys read a bunch of cards. Did you send this speech doc?
My bad. Let me send you all the cards I ran.
Okay.
Right before cross.
Okay.
Yeah, I sent it.
Okay, cool. We'll let you know whenever we get it. Did you guys send the right cards because I'm seeing stuff about AI.
Yeah, you don't read.
Oh no. So the stuff on AI I use for small businesses. Here, yeah, those are still the correct cards that I ran.
Okay, sure. Okay, then if that's everything, then you guys should be good to go. Yeah.
Alright, yeah. Are you ready for cross?
Yeah.
Because I spoke last, would you like first question?
Yeah, sure. On your contention on healthcare workers, you understand that the EU right now has a larger shortage than the UK,
So
right?
that larger shortage is because the EU doctors have lost access to UK universities, right? And
Wait a minute, that doesn't make sense.
Okay, no.
First of all, if you're saying that the doctor shortage in the UK happened because of a loss in education, how did that happen in like less than 5 years?
because that loss of education is because the EU lost access to UK universities, and UK universities and UK students also lost access to EU universities because of the loss of Erasmus Plus. When education goes down, so does labor.
Okay, so you agree that your entire contention, like this
It's
entire
important.
doctor, your entire doctor point, right, is entirely reliant on the fact that education will have to replace these doctors, right? So on net, your impacts only access after like a bare minimum of, like, let's say 4 years, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
I
cool.
can see that. So I just wanted to ask you a quick question, right, on your case. So, how does returning mean that the UK has to leave all 70 of its traded agreements?
Yeah, so it doesn't matter if the trade deals are similar to what the EU has signed before. Fundamentally, the EU doesn't allow independent countries to have independent FTAs. It doesn't matter if it's a rollback deal, like it's similar to what the EU has signed before. Fundamentally, by EU law, they would have to leave every single trade deal that they have signed.
But when they leave all those trade deals, right, wouldn't they rejoin the EU and get access to all those same trade deals again?
No,
68
they
of-
won't, because
Why?
you have to understand that every single trade deal that is signed by the EU is distributed amongst all of the EU countries. For example, let's say that you claim in your case, which we will talk about in summary, that the India trade deal itself is so small, right? But by saying it's so small, you're going to make it inherently way worse, because now you have to split it up with every single party member in the bloc. Because again, no independent country can have an independent trade deal. It doesn't matter if they're similar.
Okay, no, even if it's not independent, they still gain the same benefits that they do. It's
How?
the same amount, because
If
those
I
EU
am
trade deals
gaining
are-
$1 billion, but then now I have to share my $1 billion
it's
with
not like you're
27 member
It's not
states,
like
am
you're
I gonna
only
have the same economic
No,
impact?
because look here, you're not gaining only $1 billion. You're gaining a lot more because because the trade itself is bigger, right?
How is
There's
the
more
trade itself bigger? You
because there's
yourself
more
said
trade
that
in
the trade
itself
deals are similar.
No, I'm saying the trade deals are similar, but they're not similar in value, right? What I'm trying to say is
So what do you
the
mean
EU
by they're similar?
Okay, I mean they're similar in the fact that, in the sense that the goods and exports are still the same. Right?
So
the
you
type
admit-
of labor, the type of services they're exporting.
Wait, so
the
the
type of
goods
they're
and services are the same, but there's
however-
more money.
However,
The
there's
goods
more money.
and services
However,
are the same,
because
but
they're
there's
doing it
more
at a
money?
larger scale.
There's a large. Okay, you just said
Look,
that
I'm
the
saying-
goods and services are the same, but it's a larger
Okay,
scale.
what I'm
How does it
trying
make
to
sense?
say is the UK kind of lost leverage when it left the EU.
We
right?
read in case 4 cards on how the EU is horrible at making trade deals. The GCC
We're
trade
talking
deal,
about
which was can I
we're
finish? The GCC trade deal, which the EU has never established. I'll finish my point and we'll move on. But the GCC trade deal, the EU did not never establish in 20 years. The UK achieved in 2 years. But that's time. We'll take some running prep time.
Yeah. Okay. I'll start prep for context. We have 2 minutes and 3 seconds. I'll start right now. Okay. A minute 30 seconds. So we have 33 seconds remaining. Okay. Order of the speech will be our case, Wayne, and then their case. So neg, way, pass. Okay, cool. You guys ready? Judge, you ready? Okay, cool. And no new evidence, so no dog. We'll start time right now. The first and primary response they're giving to FTA is that they've only added 0.2%. They make this claim that this will happen by 2040. But look at their evidence. Chu et al. Never even mentions 2040. They're trying to misconstrue the narrative. It's 0.2% after they've just started. They drop all of our evidence from case that says that prospective analysis shows that we're growing our exports to 1 trillion euros. That's the largest number that has ever been said inside of this round. They clean concede that, so we're clearly winning the econ debate. Then they say that, what do you call it? Oh, they say that this is also India specific. Keep in mind that India is 1 out of 70 of the trade deals. Even if we take their math at their highest ground, it's 0.2% compounded over the rest of the deals that we've made. Then they say that 63 out of the 70 deals are rollover, but remember what Emmanuel said in Cross, that if it's rollover and it's happening inside the European Union, then all of those economic benefits are distributed across 27 countries. They don't go just to the United Kingdom, meaning that their role is making the United Kingdom settle for less economically when they need it more than ever. Then they also say that the European Union makes good deals. They completely concede our evidence from case that says that it takes decades for the European Union to try and make deals with the GCC, longer than anybody inside of this round has lived, and inside of just a few years the United Kingdom made those deals and way more. If we truly want the econ to get better, then we stay inside of the status quo, because what is clearly working continues to work insofar as we don't affirm. Then go to regulatory whiplash. This is literally conceded. They send you 2 cards about AI. I never said AI. They give you AI specific regulations. We're talking about small business specific regulations. They also say that businesses are hurting right now. They concede OIM 24, which says that they've stabilized in status quo. What they're trying to do is the exact same thing we did in Brexit. Small, fast regulatory changes, which these businesses, after just stabilizing in status quo, cannot handle. Insofar as this is conceded, that 52% of the UK's economy goes belly up inside of the 10 years that it takes for them to actually access their impacts, which prereqs their entire case, because insofar as the UK economy dies, we never get alive by the time we access EU impacts. Then go to their case. Actually, no. Go to the way. As I just said, we're winning on time frame very clearly. They concede McGee 24, which says that it takes 10 years for full litigationary section to the EU, meaning that it takes so much longer for them to actually access any of their impacts, and we're actually immediate. Then the second thing is that we're waiting on magnitude, because we go to global recession, none of their impacts go beyond the United Kingdom, so we're winning on that front as well. Then also, they've conceded the, on their case, they've conceded the overview. My partner said that Erasmus Plus is already being reintegrated. We're already reintegrating agriculture and food trade. Every single thing that he said was completely ignored inside of their rebuttal speech, so you can flow that through. It's way too late for them to give new responses in the next speech. Then, on healthcare, they clean concede that the root cause, and as in ONG 23, the root cause of healthcare issues is due to funding, not staffing shortages. And insofar as our side is winning the economic debate, we win their healthcare contention. Insofar as this is conceded, it's easy for us. And then secondly, they talk about red list workers oppression. They don't tell you that this will stop. If anything, they'll say that the United Kingdom will continue to exploit red list workers because they'll be cheaper than EU workers. Then, really quickly go to econ. You can really just cross-apply our first and second contentions, but they also drop all of our evidence from case that says that independent countries have higher GDP growth than EU countries. So it's just really, really clean for us. Thank you, and please, maybe I should.
We're gonna be taking some prep starting in 3
For context, you guys have 2 minutes, right?
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay, cool.
Okay, that's 50 seconds of prep.
50 seconds?
Yeah.
So you guys have a minute and 10 seconds? Okay.
Correct.
Cool.
Okay, is everyone ready?
Yeah, we're good.
Okay, Judge, are you ready?
Yeah, can you repeat the order?
Okay, yeah, I'll start with our case, their case, then Wayne. I'll start time on my first word. On our side, extend both of our contentions, economy and healthcare. Rejoining the EU restores trade and investment, reversing the 4% GDP loss caused by Brexit, which was conceded in rebuttal. That economic recovery directly funds the NHS, reduces poverty, and saves lives, which proves solvency on both sides. The EU also supports healthcare funding through shared research grants, medical supply access, and workforce programs that the UK lost after Brexit, such as Erasmus Plus, that I'm extending from rebuttal. Every credible institution agrees that Brexit permanently damages growth, and also the only way to fix that is to rejoin the EU. Add to the fact that my opponents conceded our drug trade card, that it was increased tenfold. So that just shows you that an AF ballot would lead to millions of lives getting saved, and it's immoral for you to vote for their side, because we should already be preferring lives over econ. Now I'll be moving on to their case. I'll just be extending everything my partner said in rebuttal, but their main claim is that rejoining takes too long and risks economic uncertainty, and that's wrong for two reasons. First of all, direction matters more than duration. Markets react immediately once the UK decides to rejoin in the first place. Investors return, trade picks up, and confidence rises even before full accession happens. So that just means we access these short-term benefits and actually win the time frame argument. On their own Lagos evidence says Brexit cost the UK £100 billion a year, and so doing nothing just locks in that loss. And they also try to say that leaving the EU lets the UK make better trade deals like the one with India, but that just turns their argument completely, as my partner said in rebuttal. It's very tiny compared to the 4 to 6% gain from rejoining the EU single market, and the EU makes larger, faster, and more valuable trade deals, and the value matters more than the amount of trade deals. So if we're making bigger trade deals, we outweigh on magnitude. And they also say the EU's economy is slow, but their barrage card is from 2016 and completely outdated. The EU now outperforms the UK in post-pandemic recovery and provides a much larger market, meaning rejoining still yields higher growth and cheaper prices. On healthcare, their argument that the EU also faces shortages doesn't make sense. That's exactly why cooperation matters. Rejoining allows shared staffing, funding, and research, strengthening both systems instead of isolating them. Now I'll be moving on to Wayne. Even if they win on time frame, which I've showed that we win on time frame, they literally drop everything else. First, on scope, our impacts affect literally everyone in the UK. Economic recovery affects everyone through jobs, prices, and public services, while their impacts are limited to temporary political or timing concerns. On magnitude, our side directly saves lives, which, as I said before, you should prefer lives over econ. Finally, on value, at the end of the day, the choice is between a UK that stays isolated and continues losing growth and healthcare capacity, or one that rebuilds prosperity through cooperation and EU integration. Rejoining the EU boosts growth, helps fund the NHS, and saves lives. Thus, we affirm. Thank you.
Are you ready for cross?
Grand Cross, are we all going to sit down or stand down?
We'll start.
I think
First
sitting
sit?
down.
Yeah.
For Grand Cross.
This
Have you guys ever had a standing Grand Cross?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah,
Our
one
opponent
time.
stood and it looked weird if we did it.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
I some people a little weird with it.
Alright, that's fine.
Yeah.
Okay, wait, do you want to take first question?
I'll take it.
Alright, you guys know if we take first question?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. We'll start timing right.
In case we read you how many FTAs the EU has compared to the UK, right? Do you remember that specific number?
No.
Okay, so the EU has only ever established 44 FTAs since its establishment in 1993. Not only that, for example, in the GCC, they've tried over 30 years to establish an FTA with them, and they failed. The UK, within 4 years, has established 74 trade deals, and has established a trade deal with the GCC, which has been failing for 3 decades. In what capacity is the EU faster at making trade deals or better at making trade deals?
Okay, so I'll show you in the capacity of the fact that most trade deals, 60 out of the 73 trade deals that you guys talk about are rollovers from the EU, meaning that they are the exact same thing with the exact same terms, right? Which basically just means that the EU set the UK up, and now the UK is failing without the EU because they haven't made more and more trade deals with more and more volume.
Sure. Okay. Let's talk about rollovers. So, my partner read this inside of either rebuttal or cross, and I extended it inside of summary. Rollover trade deals with the European Union, they have to be distributed across the 27 countries that constitute the European Union.
Okay.
So whatever economic gain, all that's divided by 27, which makes it marginally, not even marginally, that makes it exponentially smaller than the United Kingdom's all inside of status quo.
Okay, so we show you that right now those trade deals are basically less in value, right? So the EU trades with bigger. They
Wait,
trade more money
Just
and
really
more value
quickly,
and more
during
services.
cross, you literally conceded
No, I
it's the
concede the fact that
same.
it's the same type of services and exports, but I'm telling you that the value is different.
You-
Yeah, in
Wait,
addition,
okay,
can I add one more thing?
Wait, what?
Can I add one more thing onto what my
Go
brother
for
said?
it, yeah,
So, in case I give you the Labor 25 card, which specifically shows you that the EU is better at it, it has more leverage because it's it would be a 28 nation bloc with the UK.
Okay, wait. Your evidence is an assertion. If we want to take an assertion and we want to give it value, then it needs historical precedence. And it's been conceded inside of this round that the European Union, with almost all the countries that the United Kingdom has made trade deals within like this instead of 4 years, they've taken decades trying to make those deals. If they're truly such a strong nation, then why are they so bad at making FTAs and the United Kingdom is exponentially better?
So the thing is, they aren't bad at it, right?
But they are.
But they're worse.
No, literally all of the UK
If
trade deals
they're
right
better,
now,
if they're
other than except for 6 trade deals, 68 of them are rollovers from the EU.
Okay, wait. I just
Wait, do you
really,
mind?
I just really want to be clear on this. You keep saying the EU has better leverage, it's better making trade deals, but look at the fact: the UK has over 70 trade deals, and the EU has less than 45. In what way? What proof? What actual proof, other than an assertion, do you have that the EU is better?
I mean, if what you're saying is true, then
You're writing
how
checks.
come exports are down 30%?
They're
How
not.
come the UK's I
Okay,
give
wait,
you
wait,
the case,
wait,
but
wait.
that's
Wait,
cross.
Wait, that's
Okay.
cross. Do you mind if I really quickly respond? I'll time like 5 seconds. Okay, yeah. Well, I'll just count down. We tell you that it's prospective, meaning that growth is going to happen in the future. That's time. We'll talk about it inside of the speech. We have a minute 10 prep remaining. Do you want to take it?
Close the door before
Oh, yeah, totally.
We have a minute 10.
We have a minute and 10.
Okay.
Actually, wait.
Wait, do we?
Check. We have.
No, we have 30.
Oh, that's these guys. Oops.
We have 33.
We have 33 seconds.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, rest of our prep starting now. Okay.
Should be good.
Okay. We'll concede the rest of our time.
Hello, Judge. Once again, my name is Manuel Peter from KP. Just a quick off-time roadmap. At the top, I will be giving the weighing. After that, I will get on to the prerequisite. Then I will get onto their case and just any responses in general. Time will begin on my first word. First on time frame, they take 10 years to solve. We have solvency in quo. They don't give any response to McGee 24. They also conceded the time frame argument in the first rebuttal. So either way, you can only access any of their impacts after 10 years minimum, realistically 20 years. But we already have better deals per hour C1, as small businesses are already stable in status quo. We're telling you they're going to get far worse because of the regulation changes that will happen when you rejoin a nation. Then on magnitude, we win because global recession is larger than all of their impacts. They don't mention it, so it's a clean neck vote here. Drug trade and whatever has little offense. They left gaps. They have left gaps if global econ goes away. Then the prerequisite, they read on random AI cards, which they didn't even mention AI in any of their cases. But regardless, the random cards that they did send is totally dropped, meaning that the 10-year small businesses die 52%, going away, crashes the entire economy.
And remember, Arjun himself said in Cross that pharmacy is private, they can't function without a stable economy, so we also win their drugs argument. Then on econ, it's super easy to vote for us here. They're going to come up and tell you that these trade deals are similar to the ones the EU has, but they fully conceded that they're literally the same goods and services. The only difference is that the UK has full access to the trade deals versus being split up among 27 countries. They're also going to make an assertion that the EU is better, but the facts prove, our cards prove, that the UK has more deals than the EU and is establishing trade deals that the EU has failed for 3 decades. Then on healthcare, econ prereqs, they conceded ONG 23 in rebuttal, which says that the healthcare crisis on drug shortages and on staffing is due to a lack of funding on staffing, meaning as so far when you apply our econ contentions, which we are winning, we completely prerequisite the argument, meaning that we access their entire impacts on healthcare since we solve for the fundamental issue either way. But either way, the solvency is blippy. They conceded that the EU has worse healthcare shortages than the UK, but then say that the country with the worst shortages is going to solve for another country with shortages, which literally logically makes no sense. Ultimately, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Keep the status quo and keep the UK sovereign, because we're already solving for all the issues they brought up, and they're just trying to make it worse. Vote on regulatory whiplash and vote on FTAs. Thank you.
Alright, I'll be taking the rest of our minute and 10 seconds on, okay? Alright, that's okay.
I left my pen up there if you don't mind. Thank you. My bad.
Judge, for a quick off-time roadmap, first we'll be going over our case on economy and healthcare, respond to their case, and then finish with Wayne. On our side, we should re-extend both of our contentions. Rejoining the EU restores trade and investment, reversing the 4% GDP loss from Brexit, which directly funds the NHS and reduces poverty. But healthcare is not just downstream. People are dying now because drug prices have increased tenfold, and our opponents dropped that. And the NHS has lost tens of thousands of EU staff. Rejoining restores skilled medical workers and EU agreements that immediately saves lives. I mean, they said that we conceded that economic growth is a prereq for healthcare, but that actually proves our point. Without reversing, Brexit losses both the economy and healthcare collapse. Waiting for growth without action means continuous deaths and shortages. The EU is way better than the UK in terms of rollovers. Their FTAs are also complete bogus. We proved to you that the EU is way better than the UK in terms of rollovers, with most of the UK trade deals coming from the EU, meaning that the UK are not going to make free deals like they do. They're just leeching from the EU. They also said that econ solves for healthcare, but that's not true. And Erasmus Plus and education solve for the labor shortage workers on both sides. They also say that their economic contentions access our impacts, but that's backwards. If the UK stays isolated, their gains never materialize, while we secure both GDP recovery and immediate healthcare improvements. Any trade deals that they show are tiny in comparison to the 4 to 6% gain from EU membership that we show you, that we extend through rebuttal and summary, which funds hospitals, lowers drug costs and prevents death. On scope, our impacts are national and affect the EU. Theirs are temporary and speculative. On magnitude, healthcare directly saves lives. Economic gains only indirectly support it. Probability studies show that Brexit did hurt no matter what. They put 1,000 lives lost from staffing and drug shortages are immediate and real. At the end of the day, the choice is clear. A UK that stays isolated and continues losing healthcare capacity, affordable drugs, and growth, or one that rebuilds wealth and saves lives through EU cooperation. That's why we affirm. Thank you.
Good round, guys.
Round, guys.
Good round.
Will you be disclosing?
I'll fix the
Good round.
improv stand.
Did you see Alan still blue in his backpack? That was like 3 weeks ago. But why is there?
Go to quarter.
What's each of your names?
I'm Arjun, ARJUNKUREP, on KP with the half. I mean, the neg.
And then my name is Manuel Peter. On side negation.
Ronit Gravid, the second speaker.
Yeah, I'm Jay Romana. I'm the first speaker on that.
you guys are calling housekeeping illegal for this?
Correct.
Okay, I am ready. I think we have to go outside for me to give God. These are
Oops. Your charger. Your charger. Everything, right?
okay. I noticed in the con you have a better explanation for you need to be